City Council regular business meeting. I'm not going to call this meeting to order because we have been in order since 4 p.m. The City Council was meeting in executive session, and we recessed about a half hour ago, and at 5:30 we're calling back to order. So welcome to our regular business session. Would you please join me in rising for our Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the republic for which it stands, liberty. Please remain standing. Mr. Neese.
Thank you. Thank you. Check, check. Okay. Excuse me. All right, let's pray. Father God, we give you praise and honor for your holiness and presence among us. We are grateful for your love and mercy that is made available for all, for your grace which allows us to invite you here. We ask that your Holy Spirit guide us in our deliberations so that your will can be done here on earth as it is in heaven. We pray for your continued goodness, for the provisions of this city and those in need. We ask that you have mercy for our failings against your standards, and we humbly serve this community. Lead us in your truth of your wisdom. Direct us in your goodness and love. And Father, we ask that you provide wellness and safety to the men and women who serve and protect this city, this county, this state, and this nation, both here and abroad. We ask these things in the name of Jesus Christ and for his glory. Amen.
Amen. You can be seated, please. Will the Deputy City Clerk Keener please call the roll?
Councilmember Shaw?
Here.
Nicholson?
Here.
Neese?
Present.
Pittman?
Here.
Aguirre?
Here.
Kennedy?
Here.
Aspenleiter? Lindley?
Here.
Boyette? O'Donnell?
Here.
Mayor Nelson?
Present. Thank you. All right, Council, we have minutes from July 27th, 2026 to approve. Could we have a motion to approve or change those? Ms. Shaw?
I move to approve the July 27, 2026 minutes.
Do we have a second? Mr. Boyette? Any discussion regarding that? Seeing none, let's have a vote. All those in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? That's unanimous. All right, we're going to move on, and Council, we're going to kind of combine two items here, courtesies and proclamations. I'd like to ask Mr. McLeod, the Executive Director of CASA, to please step up to the podium and welcome. And we'd like to know a little bit about you and why you're here today.
My name is Drew McLeod, Executive Director for CASA of Yellowstone County. I guess what I wanted to do is have public recognition of the volunteers, because volunteer service is often done quietly without expectation of attention or reward. Yet communities are strengthened every day by people who choose to step forward when there is a need. When we publicly acknowledge that service, we affirm the values that make our city stronger, such as compassion, responsibility, and commitment to one another. CASA volunteers embody those values, and since 2015, more than 510 community members have been trained as CASA advocates in Yellowstone County, serving more than 1,600 children in the foster care system. Their impact is substantial, but much of their work happens away from public view. Today gives us an opportunity to recognize both their service and the difference they make. They enter some of the most challenging situations a child can face and remain a consistent, caring presence while decisions are made about that child's safety and future. They spend countless hours listening, learning, advocating, and ensuring that a child's voice is heard. There is a saying, often shared in the CASA movement. To give a child a voice is to give them hope, and to give them hope is to give them the world. There is also a well-known observation that credit belongs not to those who stand on the sidelines, but to those who step into the arena on a difficult work. CASA volunteers do exactly that. They choose to engage in difficult situations, not because it is easy, but because children need someone willing to stand beside them. The results benefit not only the children and families we serve, but our entire community. When children have stability, support, and advocacy during times of crisis, they are better positioned to heal, grow, and succeed. That strengthens families, schools, neighborhoods, and ultimately the future of our city. Our volunteers and all those who volunteer throughout our community remind us that strong communities are built not only by institutions, but by ordinary people who choose to do extraordinary things for others. We hope today's recognition not only celebrates those who have served, but inspires others to consider how they too can make a difference in the life of a child. Before I close, I'd like to recognize someone who helps make all of this possible. On Thursday, CASA of Yellowstone County will celebrate training coordinator Sherry Carlson. She's not happy that I pointed her out, but Sherry is the person who has, for the past 10 years, prepared all 510 of those community volunteers and counting to step into the arena on behalf of children. So, on behalf of Yellowstone County, thank you for recognizing our volunteers and shining a light on the extraordinary impact and having a proclamation of CASA Day. So,
We
thank you
do,
so
and
much.
I'm going to read it soon, but I see you have a whole plethora of people here. Would you, could we get a picture with all of you? Would you like to bring them into the well right here and we can get your picture?
Sure, if there's time.
They're,
Yeah,
they're all
she
nodding
says
their heads,
yes.
so come on
Yeah.
up, folks.
Oh, okay. Into the well.
Yep. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. I'm going to read this proclamation now, and then we'll go on to other council courtesies. Whereas court-appointed special advocates are trained community volunteers appointed by the court to advocate for the best interests of children who have experienced abuse or neglect, and whereas CASA volunteers provide a consistent, caring presence in the lives of children and youth involved in the child welfare system, ensuring their voices, needs, and best interests are heard throughout the court process, and whereas CASA advocates build relationships with children, families, caregivers, schools, service providers, and community partners to help identify strengths, needs, resources, and opportunities for success. And whereas CASA of Yellowstone County serves more than 300 children each year through the support of approximately 150 dedicated volunteer advocates who generously give their time, talents, and hearts to children and families in our community. And whereas through thousands of volunteer hours each year, CASA advocates provide stability, encouragement, and hope, helping children remain connected to their communities, access critical services, and move towards safe and permanent outcomes. And whereas the work of CASA volunteers reflect the very best of community service, compassion, and civic engagement, demonstrating that one caring adult can make a lasting difference in the life of a child. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that I, Mike Nelson, Mayor of the City of Billings, Montana, hereby declares August 13th, 2026 to be CASA Day in the City of Billings and encourages all residents to recognize and celebrate the dedicated CASA volunteers who tirelessly advocate for the safety, well-being, and future of children and families in our community. Be it further proclaimed that the City of Billings extends its gratitude to the volunteers, staff, community partners, foster and kinship givers, and all those who work alongside children and families, and encourages citizens to learn more about CASA and the many ways they can support vulnerable children in our community. And I've put my signature on it, making it official. So thank you, CASA volunteers. Councilmember Nicholson, I believe you're next.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'd like to recognize the Montana Family Medicine Residency Program. Doctors go through a lot of training. They typically do 4 years of, get an undergraduate degree, and then it's 4 years of medical school, and they get the title of doctor, and they have MD or DO after their name. But residency training, which comes after that, is where they turn a doctor into a physician ready to treat patients independently. For the last 30 years, the Montana Family Residency Program here in Billings at Riverstone Health has been turning doctors into physicians. They have placed a large number of family physicians in Montana and 44 here in Billings. If you are lucky enough to have a family physician for your doctor here in Billings, chances are they trained at this program. I'm particularly proud of this program now that they are expanding with a rural tract in Miles City, largely because my daughter, Dr. Marjorie Albers, is the director out there. Anyway, John, can you come up and with your residents there?
Thank you, Councilmember Nicholson and Council. I have with me tonight Dr. Ash Powdell and Dr. Melinda Luters, first-year interns in the Montana Family Medicine Residency Program. For 30 years, we've trained almost 200 physicians, almost 60% of whom have remained in Montana, and that's the point. It is about building a consortium and a partnership, and even though they spend the majority of their time at Riverstone Health down the street on the south side, it is truly a partnership that exists no place else with Billings Clinic and St. Vincent Intermountain Health. And we couldn't exist without that collaboration. And so public health, the Family Community Health Center with integrated dental and behavioral health, full public health services, mobile clinic, healthcare for the homeless, these residents, and a foster care clinic on CASA Day. These residents get exposure to it all right here in Billings, Montana, and now soon to be in Miles City. And so we thank you for recognizing a key economic driver in Montana's healthcare hub and a key solution to the workforce crisis facing healthcare today. On the handout you have, the back side of that is a map. And that map showcases all of those red dots where a Montana family medicine resident graduate is now providing healthcare across the state. And, we've got some work to do up there on the High Line, and I think we're going to do it. And so thank you for the recognition. I did want, if time allows, our interns to share why Billings, why Riverstone Health, why Montana.
Good afternoon, respected council members and everyone in attendance, wonderful citizens of this town. My name is Ashutosh Paurel, intern resident at Montana Family Medicine Residency, and I want to thank you all for the recognition that you have given to our institution. I also want to thank MFMR as well as Billings Clinic and Intermountain Health Hospital. And I would like to say why, as through my experience. So as we know, Riverstone Health is more than just a health institution. It acts as a public health a public health department for the city and the county as well. And throughout the last few weeks, I was lucky enough to meet with the wonderful people who are in public health department and make that work. And through them, I was able to interact and serve the wonderful people of this town. So as an international medical graduate, I feel more than honored to be part of this wonderful residency program. And I look to improve myself and make my contributions in this wonderful town. I feel more than honored to be a part of the Billings community. Thank you, everyone.
That was wonderful, Ash. I'm not sure how I could top that. I'm Melinda Luters. I'm an osteopathic physician, and I just moved here about 3 months ago from North Carolina to complete my training with the Montana Family Medicine Residency Program. And one of the main reasons why I wanted to come to Montana was the state's continued dedication to the preservation of individual rights to access healthcare. And I think that that is so important, and I am so grateful that I get to train in a place where we protect individuals.
Thank you. Would you guys like a photo? Absolutely. Come on forward. Okay. Jenny's doing a fine job. Tony, step up. All right, fun part's over. See, I don't think do we have any council reports today? Any council reports? Nope. All right, Mr. Ifland, an administrator report?
So I do have a couple things tonight, Mayor and Council. So concerning consent item 1D, which is the agreement with NORPAC, we did forget to mention that this will require a budget amendment as it was not included in the FY27 budget, but was scheduled for the CIP for an upcoming year. So just so the council has awareness for that. And you should have got a link to complete a survey by the Bridge Group for our strategic planning meeting at the end of September, 1st of October. If you could please fill that out and get that information in to help us plan that meeting. And there were no ex parte communications received after 3 p.m. to the mayor and council concerning the items on the agenda. That's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. Ifland, did you say 1B as in boy?
1D as in dog.
1D as in dog, NORPAC. Would you like us to remove that then and wait until the budget amendment goes through, or approve it now?
Council, you may at your prerogative approve it now. It doesn't affect that, but we just wanted to make sure the council had awareness that we would be coming asking for a budget amendment for it.
Okay. So council, at a couple of council people's request, we've done some looking at consent agenda regarding removals and questions and debate. So we're going to just kind of go through the motions really quick here as to what we can do. During the consent agenda, rather than remove something for discussion and then vote on it separately, what we can do now is when we introduce the consent agenda, we can just ask if there are any questions about any specific items. And then if those questions lead you to believe that you might vote differently on those rather than with total consent, then we can remove those. It might save us a little bit of time. Okay. So I would say routine non-controversial items are on the consent agenda. These are to be approved together in one motion unless a council member separates one. Staff can answer factual questions right now without pulling the item. So for instance, if we had a question about 1E, we could be recognized now and ask that question before it's removed. If there's a call for a separation for any other reason, we'll do that too. So let's give it a try this time. Mr. Kennedy? So, Mr. Kennedy, you want to ask a question regarding item N? Would you like to comment on? Go ahead, Mr. Kennedy.
Just a question, Kevin. This memorandum of understanding with the Montana Highway Patrol for the drug incinerator use that puts all of any disposal of any kind of drugs, we use their disposal, their incinerator, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted it noted because we no longer are using our own incinerator. Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Aspenline.
I'm going to ask to separate 1G as that's direct with my company, and 1P1 as my company is in the payables.
Yes, we should. And so I was going to go back after we did our separations, but before we voted and beg forgiveness again. Any other separations? Any other questions regarding that? All right, before we move forward and take any action on the consent agenda, I'm going to open the meeting up to public comment on non-public hearing agenda items. That will be agenda items 1 and 3 only. If you wish to make a public comment, please make sure that you are signed in before you come up. Once you're here, tell us your name, where you live, and you'll get 3 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. My name is Jeff Kettleson. I live in the 5th Ward. I'd like to speak on item number 3, the tax increment financing assistance to DRG North Park Apartments. This proposal comes from the eBird. eBird 10 years ago was not in a low-income census tract. We spent millions and millions of dollars of citizens' money, public school money mainly, kids' money, and the return on investment has led it to now be in a low-income census tract. So it's a great job, wonderful. Return on investment, negative, terrible. Tonight before you, we have DRG, and they're asking for $1,500,000 from this tax increment financing district. Now, citizens of Billings, you might want to sit down because this one's going to make your head spin. Let's start off first with Billings doesn't charge impact fees. We charge system development fees. Now, we know that the city council members have told us before that they're looking into it. They might get to it. Or, you know, we've been only looking at this for about 25 years. Don't expect too much. So anyways, in Bozeman, they would charge $5,200 for a single family, and that number comes from this administration. Now, when there's 152 units there, now I'm gonna be fair to them. I'm gonna say, well, $4,000 a unit. So citizens at $4,000 a unit times 152, you're losing out at $600,000 of impact fees here. That's money that you'll have to pay. And this is a policy that this administration and previous administrations have decided that's okay. So you see, they're more interested in helping developers, infrastructure companies, real estate agents, everything except for you. All right, so anyways, let's talk about this deal. This deal includes a deed restricted for 50 years. At the July 23rd meeting at eBird, this company told us that they were going to make $6 million on this deal. Plus, they told us that they were going to have their own construction company. So they're walking out with about $10 million. But really, here's the problem. It's a nonprofit, and they're not going to pay property tax. So over 50 years at $300,000 a year is my estimation. It's about $15 million. So this company's going to walk out of here with somewhere close to $50 million. It's a terrible deal.
Thank you, Mr. Kettleson. Any other public comment?
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Dave Goodridge, commercial real estate broker here in town. Address 24 South 29th. I want to speak in regards to the TIF application that's in front of you. I couldn't tell if there's public comment on the item itself, so I figured I better get up now. I've been watching this part of town for a long time. In fact, I completed a warehouse survey in this area back in 2002 for one of the property owners who was instrumental in helping start what eventually became the East Billings Urban Renewal District. For more than 20 years, I've watched this exact property function as cold storage and remain largely the same type of use it was then. During that same period, I've watched developers and investors struggle to assemble sites in the bird. Property aggregation has been extremely difficult, if not impossible in many cases. Opportunities where a tract of this size is already assembled and ready for development in this area are extremely rare. That's why I support this application. From a real estate perspective, I don't just evaluate what happens on a property, I evaluate what happens around a property. This project represents more than $42 million of investment, 152 housing units on a site that has been underutilized for decades. The question isn't simply what happens on these two parcels, the question is what happens to the surrounding properties when investors, lenders, developers, and property owners begin looking at this area differently because now there is now activity, density, and momentum. That's how real estate works. Significant projects create confidence. Confidence attracts investment. Investment changes neighborhoods. I've also heard concern that these are rental units and not owner-occupied homes. My response is simple. People can't become homeowners in Billings if they can't first live in Billings. Billings is one of Montana's primary employment centers. Employers need workers and workers need places to live. Every additional housing unit gives Billings a better opportunity to attract people, retain people, and allow them to build a future here. For the last several years, we've heard constant discussion about the need for more housing. We've heard it from elected officials, employers, developers, and residents, and the real estate world. Well, this is an actual housing project. State law allows these funds to be used for workforce housing and land acquisition. Tonight's question is whether we're willing to use the tools that are available to help create the housing we've all been talking about. Because the alternative is to wait for land values to fall, construction costs to fall, and for a project like this to somehow become easier to build. That may happen, it may not. But if we truly believe housing is a priority, then at some point we have to put our money where our mouth is. And finally, I think it's important to remember what urban renewal was designed to accomplish. It's not a tool designed to maximize next year's return.
Thank you, Mr.
It's a tool
Goodrich.
designed to improve what a district looks like 10 or 15 years from now.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comment? Seeing none, we'll close this portion of our meeting and go back to the consent agenda. We have separations item 1G and 1P as in Paul 1. Any other separations, Mr. Neese?
Sorry, Mayor, I was going to make a motion if that's all right with you.
Please do.
I move to approve the items of the consent agenda as submitted with the exception of the items removed for separation.
Thank you. Mr. Kennedy seconds. Any discussion or questions regarding the motion? Mr. Aspenleiter?
Yeah, I just comment on what is 1N, the MOU with the Highway Patrol. I'm glad that's finally done. I think that's an important step. It's one that was started in September, so I'm frankly disappointed that it's taken us 11 months to get there. Shouldn't have taken that long, but here we are. It's a good step in the right direction. Appreciate the cooperation from the Department of Justice and the Attorney General on this. And now we are officially moving forward in a new direction. So appreciate that.
Excuse me. Anything else? All right, let's vote then. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, that passes unanimously. Now, separated items, Mr. Neese.
Mayor, I make a motion to approve item 1G and 1P1.
Do we have a second? Mr. Boyette? All right, we have one recusal. That would be Mr. Aspenleiter. The rest of us are going to vote on it. Any discussion before we vote? Seeing none, let's vote. All those in favor of passing the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes 10-0 with Mr. Aspenleiter bowing out. We'll move on to the regular agenda, public hearing regarding item number 2.
Item number 2, public hearing and first reading ordinance amending Billings, Montana City Code, Article 21-200, solid waste collection and disposal. Staff recommends approval.
Share the screen already? No. This one? It's a love-hate relationship, this thing.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Sorry about the delay there. So this item tonight is to amend the ordinance, or an ordinance amending the solid waste city code. And we did have a meeting back on June 1st to talk about cardboard. And per direction that night, to end the cardboard program, we started looking at city code. And we are here tonight after a July 20th meeting in which we presented the first round of what we were proposing for amendments to our city code for solid waste. And so tonight, I'm really going to concentrate on just the changes since that meeting. So again, what prompted it was the council direction to eliminate curbside cardboard collection. And in that process, we did decide to update and clarify our collection standards. The eligibility of the use of the landfill geographically needed to be clarified. We wanted to codify a lot of our landfill operating rules, and then also some enforcement tools that we did not have in there before. So in that process, then we also modernized and updated some of the other language in the code. So really there's 9 kind of areas of the code that we've changed since the last meeting based on feedback from council and talking to staff and legal, and then also some council members since that meeting. I won't go through this list, but we'll go through them on the next slides. So the first one is to clarify bagging requirements. I think there was a question during the council work session, and then we've heard it from a lot of people afterwards about, do I have to bag everything? If I have a brick, do I have to bag that? If I have a small appliance, do I have to bag that? So we wanted to clarify that in the code, just to clear that up. And the code really is, it's about litter. So bag everything that could be blown away. And so we changed that language slightly. The current code already required that everything be bagged. And then the last time when we met, we had proposed a 45-degree standard for lids, that we were going to allow people to have 45 degrees of freedom is what we were calling it. And council that night, through a straw poll, instead directed us to go back to what the code already said and that lid closed standard. So we then did go back and revise our amendments, and we did make some adjustments to that section, but it really just is some verbiage changes. So it really goes back to an able to be closed standard that was in there before, that we weren't enforcing, but we will be enforcing now if it passes. And I want to emphasize that able to be closed, because there's a lot of comments saying, what if the wind blows those lids open after I put my trash out? Well, if it's able to be closed, we'll still pick it up. And then our Public Works Board did ask us to make one adjustment in adding alleys in this code, saying that carts have to be removed from the street right of way and alleys at the end of each collection day. Talked to staff, and then I had a meeting with Councilmember Neese where we talked through it. It's a big ask, a big change for what goes on in Billings right now. And with everything else that we're gonna have to try to enforce in this code, we didn't think that now was the right time. So Councilmember Neese and I kind of came up with a compromise language that we're not going to do that yet, but instead we will in the code spell out that the carts in the alleys need to be placed on adjacent to the owner's property on the collection side of the alley. Right now, what happens in a number of alleys is you might have all houses in that block, all on the end person's back fence. So we are clarifying it so that it should be against each property. And then I think this was Councilmember Kennedy's request to get, to just make sure that we said in the code that we will pay for, and we will not charge customers for damaged carts through normal wear and tear. Obviously, if there's intentional acts, then we would try charging somebody, but I don't believe we've ever actually charged for a replacement cart or lid. And then this section we kind of amended afterwards, where we added a lot of cleanup and cost recovery authority in the code, or we proposing to. So section 21202 is regarding the requirement to keep your adjacent alley and front of your right-of-way clean to your house. And so there's the code section in there that we will send a 10-day letter. But there's nothing in there right now to say, well, what happens if they don't do anything after the 10 days? I mean, we can pursue it through legal action, but it may be easier just to clean it up and charge that person responsible. So we put some language in there for that. Or if it's causing a hazard, the ability to do immediate cleanup without any kind of notice. And then we have the same thing for the solid waste collection. So if somebody has unbagged trash, the driver picks it up, it spills out, we have that ability to pick it up and then charge them back for that time that they spend out there. And then the last one is at the landfill. We have a number of times where we've had some property damage out there, and we have never been able to charge our customers for that damage. The most recent one was we had a brand new temporary speed bump, and somebody took it out with their hitch as soon as we had it. So things like that, it would be nice to charge back to, and the more we do this and charge the responsible party, the lower all of our other fees can be. And this one, I believe, is a Councilmember Neese request to add in this section about, or this sentence about unsecured loads being part of the outdoor dumping. So if you have trash that's spilled out of your truck or escapes from your truck because you have an unsecured load, it is considered outdoor dumping, and it's you can be fined for that with a municipal infraction. I won't go through this slide in depth. We added a number of things about hazardous waste. It's a frequent call that we get is what to do with our hazardous waste. So we wanted something in the code for it. Basically, we do not allow any kind of hazardous waste or household hazardous waste in a cart or any kind of container that we collect. But we do collect household hazardous waste at the landfill in certain quantities. So we added some code sections with definitions and what we will accept. It kind of refers back to the EPA rules on household hazardous waste and hazardous waste. And we know we need to do better in educating people in this area. So we're also committing to doing some expanded website. We're working on some rules and regulations that are, more easily readable for people than perhaps city code is, to explain what can and cannot be brought to the landfill. and then do some additional outreach on some of the hazardous waste requirements. And then this section here was another request from Councilmember Neese. We were looking at it last time. Legal had to look at it still before we met last time, but agreed that we could put this in here. It's just basically giving staff the ability that we can call law enforcement at the landfill if somebody's not following those rules that are proposed in the amended ordinance. And I believe this is the last change. It merely changes the appeal process. Before, the language in the proposed code on July 20th had the appeal going to the city administrator, and we changed that to city council and mirrored other city code language for that. And then we have heard from a lot of people online. There's been some articles and a lot of feedback. So we, with the help of AI, took all of the comments and did a word cloud to figure out like what are the biggest concerns. Turns out there are about 7 of the really big concerns, and that we kind of wanted to address those here, and we'll be educating people throughout the process on some of these things. First one is wind. That was the biggest comment that we heard from people was, what about the wind and blowing open those lids? So I just want to reiterate, it's an able to be closed standard, so we are not penalizing people for the wind. The next one is on cart and capacity size. People want bigger containers. I will say the 96-gallon cart that we have is very comparable to all of our peer communities that use 90, 95, 96, somewhere in there, size container as their largest size for residential containers. I think the bigger problem is we used to allow more. We had 300-yard containers in the alleys, and it was supposed to be sharing for 3 people, for 3 homes, and it didn't always happen. Over time, some homes ended up with their very own 300-yard container, so you can see why people are upset that they went from 300 yards to 96 yards. And that's really the concern. I will say the additional cart is only $5.25 per month, so that's a pretty good deal for that. And then, of course, since the cardboard and recycling program ending was in the news a bit, we heard some on that. It was good and bad, though, really. A lot of people are like, good, get rid of it, didn't use it anyways. But there were people who didn't understand why we are or at least proposing to eliminate it. And really, it comes down to it's a business decision. There's only a participation rate of 10%. $319,000 a year is what it costs us to run that program, and we only gain $6,300 per year in airspace savings. So it just doesn't make good sense to continue that program, and it's incorporated in everybody's fees, not just those 10% that are using those programs to fund that program now. The overfilled carts, a lot of comments on that. Some people they are very upset with their neighbors that have overfilled carts and things that spill out onto the ground, and they say that they have to go clean up after them. And then a lot of people saying it's basically not fair. So we are going to try to do some education on how to better pack your cart, because a lot of people could just do better and still get all of their garbage in the cart that they have and have a closed lid. A lot of things on broken lids, and we know that there are a lot of broken lids out there. Call us, we will replace for free, but we need to know where they're at. Bagging requirements, a lot of things on that, but like I said, we've clarified that in the ordinance with really it's a blow away, it's a litter standard. And then a lot of comments on the costs and the fees of solid waste, that we pay a lot for solid waste. We are tax funded, these are our taxes. We should be able to have these services. So I just want to clarify a few things that I know council already knows. But solid waste is an enterprise fund. It's not tax funded at all. In fact, public works is not tax funded at all. And the residential rate is actually lower than our cost of services. So we subsidize that currently with landfill fees, and it's a 28% subsidy. So you're paying 28% than the cost of that service actually is right now because of the landfill fees. And overall, we are the lowest in the region. We have never been above anybody that we've surveyed for collection fees. So what we're asking you to do tonight is hold the public hearing and approve the first reading of the ordinance. If approved, our next steps would be to start that customer education and outreach through various methods, including a couple community meetings. We had thought about starting it after the last meeting. After that work session, we decided we better hold off till tonight so that we didn't start anything that wasn't going to go through. And so we would start that soon. I know our communications person is ready to go. And then we would have the second reading of the ordinance on the 24th of this month, and it would go into effect 30 days later. So with that, I am here for questions.
Thank you. Any questions for our presenter? Mr. Lindley?
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks for the information that you put forth. Can you go back to that slide that had all the data on it?
Which?
One more, I think. There you go. Perfect. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. So you answered a couple of my questions there. I want to talk about that second cart. So just to be clear, so if someone feels like they can't fit everything in one, they could get a second cart, so they'd have two, and that's $5.25 per month?
Correct.
In theory, someone could use that second cart to put their cardboard in, correct?
Councilmember Lindley, that's correct. They could use that separately for cardboard.
Okay. Second question is with the broken lids. Is there any ability for, I don't even know if this is something that the garbage truck drivers would see. Are they able to notice those? Is there a way for them to note that? So I think I've heard from people that say, well, the truck comes by and picks it up. They can see that it's broken. Why do I have to call?
Yeah, Councilmember Lindley, our drivers pick up about 1,000 stops a day, so they are in quite a bit of a rush. However, we can, during this period right now, start having them, we'll program something into Routeware so that they can note that for anybody that has a broken container or a broken lid.
Yeah, I guess my question was just more of, is that something they currently do? Is it feasible to do?
It's something that some drivers do, but there are so many that are in such a rush to just get through their route that they don't really look at the card itself too much. But we will get them in the habit of doing that more.
Okay.
I actually had my mom say, why didn't they replace it? My card's been broke for months. I'm like, report it. Let's do it right now. So.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, Mr. Kennedy, then Mr. Boyette.
Jennifer, would you go back to 21, the closed container? We had talked about this, that either it's 45 or less, or now it's completely shut. So I guess I'm just going to ask you the question, what does it mean? Does it have to be completely shut, or is it this much, or what is it? Because I have a feeling we're going to get calls from folks saying my garbage did not get picked up and I had shut it. So
Councilmember Kennedy, my understanding is that the general direction from council last time was to use a lid closed standard. So we are communicating lid closed. Will a driver pick it up if it's an inch or two? Probably. But in order to have some kind of standard out there for customers, if you say an inch, they're going to think they can do 6. So our communications are really going to be, it's an able to be closed standard.
okay, you just answered it. I'll be voting no. Thank you.
Mr. Boyette, then Mr. Neese.
Yeah, so the wind blew, knocked mine over and broke the lid. I called, and guess what? They brought me a new one. So this is not brain surgery. If it breaks, simply call. That's what we have, telephones, and we got the internet for. So it's not hard to get a new garbage can. So if I can do it, anybody else can.
And Councilmember Boyette, just to follow up on that, we also have the Citizen Problem Reporter. We really encourage people to use that because, then they don't have to leave voicemails or get those calls back. But if they want to use that, they can do that too.
Mr. Neese?
Thank you, Mayor. Jennifer, thanks for working with council on this, getting us to us early, and being able to go through it. And I know it's a major change. And so I'm hoping as this goes on and maybe in 6 months, you can report back to us to let us know how it's going, and if we have to make some minor changes, maybe we will. The only thing about this is, it still bothers me is, I mean, we have some big families in here. If 2 carts is not enough. You know, you got a family of 5 boys, they're gonna fill that up. And so is there any leeway that Public Works would give a family that needs 3 carts, even though it says 2? Would you provide more than 2 carts if they needed it?
Councilmember Neese, we can definitely look at that as far as having additional carts if somebody, I mean, if somebody's paying for it and they have room for it. It's just some areas, I don't think that we could fit additional carts. I guess the other thing is if they don't use yard waste carts, because we allow 2 yard waste and 2 of the residential carts. So if they do only have 2 residential or two residential and no yard waste, then yes, more would fit. So we could look at some of that and provide some flexibility there.
Okay, as long as I know that you guys would be a little flexible in that. Otherwise, I would amend that, ask for an amendment to change it up to 3. I don't think you'd get too many people asking for 3, but I think you may. But thank you very much, and thanks for the public work or your public work staff looking over this stuff. You had a lot of people looking at it, so appreciate this.
Any other questions for our presenter? Yeah, I know council's going to be totally surprised about this, but we're going to move to public comment in the correct order on this one. So I'm now opening it up to a public comment on agenda item 2. If there's anybody who wants to speak to the new ordinance, please come forward, state your name, take your 3 minutes. Last chance for public comment on item number 2. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing portion and ask for motions. Mr. Boyette.
Thank you. Tony's in a hurry. So having conducted a public hearing, considered written and spoken public testimony, I move to approve the first reading ordinance amending BMCC Article 21-200 solid waste collection and disposal as recommended by staff.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Neese seconds. Mr. Boyette made the motion. Is there any discussion or debate regarding the motion? Mr. Boyette, you want to speak to your motion? None? Mr. Neese.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate Public Works working with the citizens and the council on this. This is something I think is long overdue. I hope this is one step to help trash get a little bit lesser in the community. That's my hope. We'll see how it goes. Again, thank you again for doing this. So let us know again, please keep us up to date in 6 months or so. Let us know how it goes. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Nicholson.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to vote for this with some reservations. There's going to be, as with any change, some difficulties, and I would hope the Public Works is patient with our citizens during the transition.
Further discussion? All right, seeing none, we'll vote on the motion then. All those in favor, please indicate by saying yes.
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 All those opposed? Mr. Kennedy votes in the negative, 10-1. It passes, and we're going to take a 7-minute break. for the public, please.
Number 3, tax increment financing assistance from East Billings Urban Renewal District to DRG North Park Apartments LLC to build the North Park apartment complex at 1406 6th Avenue North, up to $1.5 million, as recommended by the eBird TIF Review Committee.
Hi, good evening, Mayor and Council. I am here from the Bird, which we handle applications for the East Billings Urban Renewal.
Just for the record, could you tell us who you are?
Yes.
Thank you.
I am Heather Doty. I am here from the Bird. We have the contract for the TIF applications coming in for the East Billings Urban Renewal District. Today, I have an application for North Park Apartments. The developer is Devco. This is a $40 million plus project in deed restricted affordable housing. With us today, we also have Chase Huber, who is here virtually through for Devco. So North Park Apartments represent $4.2 million in private investment. Their TIF request is $1.5 million. That is 3.5% of that total project cost. This will create 152 deed restricted affordable houses. Households earning up to 60% are who will qualify for this. This will redevelop a long vacant industrial property within the eBird. It's also notable that this is through a nonprofit, so there will not be an incremental gain off of this. The timeline of this project started in January 24 when Devco started looking at this property for redevelopment. Early in 2005, there was a gap that was just too hard to fill. And so the project did kind of come offline at that point. In October, the Montana Board of Housing announced the Go Trust Housing. And so they applied for those funds through the Board of Housing in early 2026. We did go before the Board of Housing with this project. Unfortunately, they were not on the list of projects that made it through. This project is fully permitted and ready to go. Their funding structure is there outside of their gap. So that is what leads us here. In July, they applied for TIF to fund that gap when it became pretty apparent that nothing was going to fall off of the Board of Housing funds. And then that brings us to here today. So this site is a former brownfield property. It is located on 6th between 13th and 15th. In 1998, it was identified as environmentally contaminated, limiting redevelopment opportunities. In 2021, the Rimrock Foundation, which was also a nonprofit, had planned to make this their new campus. They had done plans, there were press releases, they're still out there. In 2022, the EPA issued a ready for anticipated use on this property, stating that the contamination was within reason and okay to develop on. And then in 2023, Rimrock Foundation backed out of that project. After that, the only thing outside of this property that I know this site has been looked at for is the state mental hospital for a hot second. Outside of that, this has just been a property that has just kind of sat. There is a warehouse on it currently. This right here is the North Park Apartments. So they are anticipating this to be kind of a U-shape. I believe the setback is about 25 feet, which they did ask for variances on to get it back from that build to zone. The unit breakdown is 68 one bedroom, one bath, 48 two bedroom, two bath, 28 three bedroom, two bath, 8 4 bedroom, 2 bath for 152 units total. These apartments have private balconies. They have modern, energy efficient construction. They have in-unit laundry. They have a clubhouse, fitness center, outdoor playground, dog park and a dog run, on-site management, on-site maintenance, and then bicycle parking. The nonprofit aspect of this is Rainbow Housing Assistance Corporation. That gives the residents access to financial literacy and budgeting education, as well as employment and career resources, youth and family programming, health and wellness support, and connects to community services. So it is really for the betterment of the residents in this property. So there's been a lot of talk in Billings over the past few years about housing and what that looks like. This is pulled from a study in November 2024 that was done by the City of Billings in partnership with Chamber and a couple of others. This report concludes that Billings has a significant shortage of attainable housing that is affecting the community's economy and private and quality of life. The workforce cannot afford housing. Housing for early career workers is severely lacking. 4 of Billings' 5 largest occupations, representing approximately 29,000 workers, cannot afford the median priced home. It specifically includes nonprofit developer model and recognizes developers as an important way to produce affordable housing using light tech, public partnerships, long-term affordability, and public investment. Housing is economic development for Billings. It helps with economic stability, workforce retention, business recruitment, and long-term growth. And then most recently, we have been going through the Billings 2045. And there's so much in this that ties directly to what North Park Apartments is trying to provide. There are specific spots in 2045 where it talks about using a nonprofit developer as well as adding TIF into that to get some of these affordable housing projects to happen. So some of the goals of Billings 2045 are increase affordable housing, residential reinvestment, infill development, utilizing existing infrastructure, increasing residential population, diverse housing options, and neighborhood revitalization. I did not go through and put the 2011 infill policy on this because a lot of 2045 covers that, but it really does go into utilizing streets that already exist, infrastructure that already exists, parks that already exist. These things are already on this site versus when we annex the lands in and then build on that. And then as far as what that income restriction looks like, so this is a 60% AMI project. These are controlled by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. They set the area median income for every county and metropolitan area in the U.S. They publish annual income limits of 30, 50, 60, 80%. Each establishes a maximum rent limits for many affordable housing programs. They oversee programs such as housing choice vouchers, public housing, and community development block grants. And then it provides the income used by the LIHTC credits program as well. And at the bottom, what you'll see there is what that 60% AMI looks like for Billings. And then according to the Montana Board of Housing application, this is what the proposed maximum monthly rents are for each of those apartment types. And again, this is a federal system of where the limits and regulations for this are coming on. They're not made by the developer. They're not made by Billings. They're much larger than that. As far as affordable housing in Montana as a whole, it is a wide variety of people who end up utilizing affordable housing. You will have seniors on fixed income, people with disabilities, veterans, working families, single parents, teachers, healthcare support staff, retail and hospitality, manufacturing, and construction. So this would house a wide variety of our community members in this project as well. the budget and timeline of this project. This has the breakdown of what you see there, a generalized breakdown of what this project is costing. I will also let you know that the Montana Board of Housing does regulate the cost per unit on LIHTC programs. So the cost per unit on a LIHTC unit can be no higher than $281,000, or I'm sorry, than $365,000. This comes in at $281,000, well within the limit. It also caps the developer payout on that. So all of these systems are really, when you're using LIHTC funds, there is a system of checks and balances to make sure these funds are being used properly and that the benefit is going to the community on this. When you look up here, you can see the eBird budget from this. We were given a couple of options through Andy with finance, and the one that seemed to work the best was Devco being paid out the $375 over 4 years, starting in 2029. And then you can see at that bottom, I can't see those numbers because they're really tiny up there. But it leaves us roughly with a little over 400,000 to 600,000 every year as an ending balance during those 4 years to still have for projects. So in summary, this adds 152 affordable homes to Billings. It serves households earning 60% of area median income. It provides deed restricted affordability for long-term, so 50 years. This property has been long vacant. It transforms an underutilized industrial site into productive use. It demolishes an aging warehouse and prepares the site. It expands the local workforce housing supply, helps employers recruit and retain employees. One of the most exciting things for this is it creates additional customers for existing businesses. In order for your economic development to thrive in a place like the eBird, we have to have people living there. And there's just, this project puts more people in the eBird than we currently have. It is through our TIF advisory committee was recommended to approve up to $1.5 million in TIF assistance for the land and the reimbursement over 29 to 32 with $375,000. This TIF is really the but for in this. This was worked on for 2 years, previously dropped out of once before, and it is really, it's ready to go. The permits are done through the city and they are ready to break ground on this in November. And then.
Thank you. Before we go to questions, can we hear from the developer?
Yes, he is online.
Hey, can you guys hear me? I see nods.
Yes, we can.
Right, great. Yeah, my name is Chase Huber. I represent Devco Residential Group. Devco is a Washington state-based affordable housing developer. We've been developing affordable housing since the early 1990s, and we are actually the largest affordable housing owner within the state of Washington. About 3 years ago, we started expanding outside of Washington to kind of take the platform we built there and take it to other states. And we have been building projects in Montana pretty much through that entire time. We own some projects in Bozeman, we own some projects in Missoula, and we are hoping to break ground on this very exciting project in Billings. As Heather mentioned, we've had a very long road with this site. We had it originally under contract in late 2024. We did all of our due diligence. We felt pretty good about it, but we just couldn't really get it to work out. And so we ended up walking away from it in 2025. Then the Montana Board of Housing created what was called the Go Trust Fund. a financing resource that provides attractive interest rate debt for affordable housing projects. We were able to get this piece of land tied back up for the same purchase price that we had originally agreed to, and applied for that financing. We thought that, you know, a project that was ready to go on a piece of land with a history of blight, in a city with a large need for affordable housing would have been a shoe-in for that financing. Unfortunately, it didn't go our way. So that was a key component to our underwriting that was no longer available to us. And Heather has been a huge advocate for this project. It is a big reason we are here today. So thank you, Heather, for the introduction, and happy to answer any questions from the council here.
Do we have good questions for either of our presenters? Ms. Shaw?
Thanks, Heather. I think this is for you. I assume there were some comments at the advisory committee about from the school district. I'm curious where are these kids going to go to school? I'm just thinking there's not an elementary school over there.
McKinley.
Okay.
Yep.
So that's a lot of kids potentially.
Yeah. Luckily, McKinley is one of the schools with space.
It's true. My kids go there, so I'm very familiar. But okay.
Yeah.
I'll just say I'm very excited about this. I think it's really exciting. The school district is aware that they could have a potential influx in a few schools that maybe haven't seen that in a while. I saw the voting. You didn't have pushback from the school board members on the advisory committee, I guess is my question.
No
Okay.
pushback.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Kennedy?
Chase, looking at the dollars allocated, the 1.5 million, you do need that to get this project off the ground. Can you, from 29 through 5 years, can you do it 300,000 reimbursement over 5 years?
Versus the 4 years proposed?
Yes, sir.
I think we can do that if that's an acceptable path for the council.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that we do have enough funding to fund some other projects in the eBird. So I'd like to see it stretched out to 5 years. Thank you.
Mr. Aspenleiter?
Yeah, thanks. Some questions for Mr. Huber. So if I got a handful of them, so if you humor me for a second. Mr. Huber, I think it was alluded to that this project is already designed and permitted and it's ready to go. Is that accurate?
Yeah, we just have to do the pre-construction meeting with the city, and then we'll be able to pick up our permits.
So did you use a local architect here in Billings?
We did not, but we used a local civil engineer.
Okay. It was also, Mr. Huber was also alluded to that you, in the minutes, that you were going to bring your own construction company up here to do the construction. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, we are vertically integrated, so we own our own construction contractor. So they will oversee the general contract, but we bidded it out and plan to use over 45% of our subcontractors are based in Billings, and almost 70% of our contractors are based in the state of Montana. So very little of our core contract is based on out-of-state groups.
But even the $1 billion hospital has committed to using at least 50% local labor and local contractors. So you're less than the hospital is committed. So next question. How do I make the connection here for you asking for a $1.5 million out of TIF funding without a commitment to using local companies and local labor, without using a local architect, and without then paying back into the increment into the city? How am I supposed to make the case that this is a good investment when you're not there? Did you guys ever consider a structure, and they're out there, in which there was a for-profit LLC that held the land to pay the taxes so that there was a return on the taxable value of that property back to the increment while still holding a nonprofit parent company to qualify for all the other fair housing projects. I mean, there's a structure that's allowed in Montana for that. Did you ever consider going down that route?
No, and there's a number of reasons for that. You know, this is a low-income housing tax credit project. That kind of structure does not allow us to earn the tax credits that we need to fund the equity for the project. So we did not explore it. I think we would be happy to use more local subcontractors. If that's, you know, contingent on the financing, we could certainly explore that. And I do think, to your point about, you know, what is the return on investment here? I think the return on investment really is twofold. It's the, you know, upward economic mobility for this piece of land in general. Right now, it's a vacant warehouse building, has been since really the 1970s. What we are proposing is to replace it with 142 deed restricted apartments that will be deed restricted for a period of 50 years, offering the tenants who live in those buildings, you know, limitless upward economic mobility, you know, a place to call home, a place that they are not overly rent burdened, where they can kind of use as a trampoline to uplift their lives. So it'll have a direct benefit with our partnership at Rainbow Housing for the economic mobility of 152 families within the city of Billings. Additionally, it'll have the benefit of providing the largest housing project in the East Billings Urban Renewal District. You know, uplifting all of the businesses in the area, you know, just having these people here living, shopping, working in this district will uplift, you know, not only the couple of parcels neighboring our project, but the entire district. So I do think the return on investment there, just to have more housing and a committed group ready to build housing in this area, is a great return on investment.
Thank you, Mayor. Heather and whoever, but how do I get a unit? Is there a line of people going to be standing outside there? Has people already applied for this? Do you have to roll a set of dice in order to get in? What's the formula for that? There's only 152, and according to you, there's thousands of people waiting. What's the process?
So, sorry. Okay, I'm going to say one thing. It's not according to me, there's thousands of people. According to Billings' own 2045 study and our housing authority, there's a list of 7,000 people awaiting for affordable housing in the city of Billings. Okay, I'll let Chase take over from there.
Yeah, I mean, you can't apply today. There's a lot more work that needs to be done to get this project off the ground. With this financing, if approved, our goal is to break ground in November and deliver units starting roughly 16 months after that. Once units are projected to be delivered, we'll have, our goal is to deliver a unit and a property management office so the property managers can start taking applications, so that once the first building is delivered, tenants can move in right away. After the building is full, we'll maintain a wait list. So whenever a tenant vacates or over income qualifies, we have another home available for individuals who need this type of housing.
Mr. Neist and Mr. Pittman.
Thank you, Mayor. Questions for Mr. Huber? It was mentioned during public comment that I guess you mentioned that someone said you guys are making a $6 million profit on this. Is that on the 42 million? Is that correct?
That is not correct. We earn what's called a developer fee. It's capped based on the Montana Board of Housing qualified allocation plan for tax credit projects. That developer fee can be deferred as a contribution towards the project. So it is true we earn that amount of fee, but that fee will be collected over 15 years. And on top of that, we're also contributing $4 million of our own money that will be paid back as a cash flow note. It won't be paid back until after that entire developer fee is paid back, probably 15 or 20 years from now. So really the reason we are here is the amount of money we are funding into this project is greater than the amount of money that we're able to earn in developer fee. And so we are here to ask for the 1.5 million to balance our sources and uses and allow us to not only get this project off the ground, but preserve our own capital to build more projects in Montana.
Okay, so that's the developer explanation of the profit and of the 6 million. And what about the construction? That's a separate company, but you guys own that, wholly own it, correct?
That's correct. We defer all of that as well in a similar fashion.
Okay, so any profit from the construction company is deferred over how long?
It depends how much cash flow the property is able to achieve after paying its debt obligations, but typically it's 12 to 15 years.
Okay. And then what's the cost per square foot to build this?
We are about 210 per rentable square foot based on our preliminary budgets that we are still working through.
What about for the whole property?
On a per square foot basis, I don't know if I have that number. I can tell you it is about $341,000 per unit.
Okay. Thank you. I have some questions for Heather.
Go ahead.
Heather, you and I talked about this project for quite a while. There's several things we talked about. One of them is the master plan. I guess it's an old master plan of the eBird. It was indicated that, as we talked, that it maybe doesn't fit in that area. That's not really the area it was designed for. Can you kind of speak to that as far as how this fits into the existing master plan and what you think needs to be done?
Yes, absolutely. So housing definitely does fit into the area where this is at. It is considered to be the central works area. So it is a housing and mixed use area. The master plan was created in 2009. So that when you look at the difference between 2009 and now, there are so many valid things in there, but a lot of what's referred to in the master plan, there are things, it refers repeatedly back to having our own form-based code, which was passed in 2012. So that is in there. And when that code was created, it did change some of the zoning that is designated within the master plan. So just with the development of the district as a whole versus in 2009, when you're looking at that master plan, it was looking like there was going to be a growth of hotels, event spaces across the street from Metra. We're now in a situation where the rail is essentially not being used right now. One of the big things for that master plan was to preserve any of those businesses that used rail. Well, there's not any on that spur right now. So a lot of that is something that could probably be looked at and updated.
Okay. And you mentioned that this is more than just housing. So there's a rainbow assistance program and all. Is that guaranteed for the 50 years?
I'm going to let Chase answer that one.
It's not guaranteed, but we plan to utilize it for the entire 15-year initial tax credit period, I guess is what I'll say. Tax credit projects are eligible for what's called re-syndication, so you can renovate and earn more tax credits and extend the affordable housing commitments every 15 years. DevCo has done that in Washington for its entire portfolio over the past 30 years. So this project would be one that we would intend to own in perpetuity. If the Rainbow Housing Program is successful, we will certainly renew it and continue it into the future.
Okay, so you're earning tax credits with this program, is that correct?
We are earning them. That's how we raise our equity. We earn tax credits and then we sell them to a bank with a Community Reinvestment Act obligation in this area.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Pippin, then Ms. Shaw.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I apologize. For some reason, my video just totally shut down and it's not recognizing my camera. I'll try to reset after I ask a few questions here. The first is that it's a request for up to 1.5 million. If the Board of Housing has some available funds, are you going to still be looking towards some of that? Because this isn't going to get paid out for quite a while anyway. Would you still be seeking Board of Housing funding instead of having to come for this whole amount?
If it became available, we would consider it. I think our priority here is to break ground on this project as soon as possible. I don't believe the groups that did receive funding through the Montana Board of Housing are going to realize that their projects work or don't work for a lot longer period than that. So I don't anticipate those funds becoming available. If they did, we would explore it and potentially they could replace this funding. But as of right now, our goal is to close in November. In order for us to do that, we need to balance our sources and uses at that time. So I don't envision those funds coming into play before then.
Okay. Heather, this project has caused me a lot of heartburn because it checks all my boxes except for the one that says it's a nonprofit. But I think Councilmember Kennedy's proposal of spreading this out over 5 years. I also don't want to see the eBird just not have any resources available to it. And it looks like if this were paid out in a big sum, that we would you guys wouldn't have much money going forward.
So the way that it is put in the presentation, I'm not sure if you can see that, Councilmember Pittman, is to be paid out over the 4 years at $375. That does not leave, for what we typically see as a district, us super low, to be honest. Does that make it harder if we have another project that comes in and is asking for $1 million? Yes, but that project would probably not be asking to be paid out until after the DevCo project is paid out. Within the district, we typically pay out, I mean, it's been around $475. I think this year, Montana Tire is like $630. So what you're seeing as those ending balances year over year with the DevCo project in there are really not substantially lower than what our ending balance has traditionally been.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Shaw, then Mr. O'Donnell.
Mayor, I'd like to go ahead and make a motion. There's no public hearing on this.
That's true, but we still have folks in line, so.
That's fine. If
Mr. O'Donnell?
just come back to me then.
I will.
Thank you. One of the things, the terms that's been used but hasn't, I've been waiting for somebody to define it better. For people like me who aren't familiar with it, what does deed restricted mean?
So deed restricted, and Chase might be able to elaborate on this and answer this a little bit better. Deed restricted means that this will always be affordable. So when you're looking at housing in Billings that says that it is affordable, that is not the same as this. So a lot of what we consider affordable in Billings can raise their price whenever they want. They have minimum income limits, whereas this has a maximum income limit. They also have minimum credit scores. So this takes those barriers out of housing for people and keeps it there for that 50-year period.
So these are strictly apartments?
Yes.
No equity?
Yes.
In them, okay. I've heard people discuss equity in them, but that doesn't apply.
The LIHTC program is really created for upward mobility. It is really created for people to be able to live in these apartments and then move on to their next step in life and have something affordable, comfortable, very nice to live in, and then be able to go out and rent something different or possibly purchase a home.
So I'm impressed with the project itself, but I share the concern of some people who have spoken about the tax implications of it. In that, as far as I understand it, and again, I'm new to this whole TIF thing, is that it's meant to get rid of blight in order to increase the tax base. So this project, as well as the previous one that we did for the 18 units apartments, are nonprofits. That's not refilling the well. at all. So that causes me a lot of concern about that. Is it possible for you or the developer to answer, well, a person who I regard as an expert in tax financing has indicated that this project would succeed, having looked at all the numbers as a for-profit as opposed to nonprofit, and therefore in assisting the tax base. Comment.
So Councilmember O'Donnell, the Skyview Residence, which is 18, that one is for profit. That one is not structured as a nonprofit. I would refer to Chase on the financial questions of nonprofit or not. That's more his expertise.
Yeah, it would not work. It would kind of put us back to exactly where we are, which is looking for another source to balance the project. So we understand this is unorthodox, but we've kind of exhausted every other option available to us, and so we're hoping this can help get this project off the ground.
So let me just say one thing is that I will be voting against the project simply because I feel that the tax increment financing is tax money. It's not our money, and it should be spent for the purposes that it was originally established, is to increase the tax base of the surrounding area, is my understanding. Thank you.
Okay, I guess we have a couple more questions before we get to you, Ms. Shaw. So Mr. Boyette and Mr. Neese.
So, I mean, many, many years ago, I went down to the eBird, which didn't exist, and met a lot of the landowners that wanted to start the eBird. And I'm really disappointed over the years that nothing's really happened because they didn't want to sell their property. They didn't want to merge their property. And we needed housing down there. We'll never get any housing without doing this. It'll never succeed, the program. I'm always the first one to say we need to pay taxes, but we got to start somewhere to bring people down there to live in order for the system for the cycle to start. So I'm going to vote for it because I think we need some housing, whether I like this or not. We need to start the process of getting some people living in this area. Thank you.
Mr. Neese?
Thank you. A couple more questions. I forgot to ask you this, Heather. I think you and I talked about this. Right now, there's a $20,000 amount this is paying. So in actuality, it's not just a nonprofit. It's actually reducing the increment by about 20,000 a year. Is that correct?
So, this is one of those weird math questions, right? Because they're still going to be paying taxes on this property. So the only other nonprofit in the eBird that I referenced was actually the food bank when I did the math. So the taxes paid out will be around $40,000 on this property now versus the increment was $20,000. Now I haven't done that math to look at where that lands, what that lands with, because when you look at a tax bill from a nonprofit, it looks very, very different than what the current property taxes of that lot look like. But the math is solid, which is that it'll bring in a little over $40,000, whereas right now it's split into two lots. One of them brings 16, one of them brings a little over 4.
Okay, thank you. And then one more last question for Mr. Huber. When in your construction company, do you ensure that all your subcontractors pay the prevailing wage?
We try not to. It is hard enough to build affordable housing without the prevailing wage component. It just adds another layer of complexity that makes building these types of projects even more challenging. So we typically try to avoid that.
Do you understand that TIF contracts require that?
My understanding was it did not. If it does, we are open to doing it. We've done it in the past.
So if I might add, that is why they've applied for the TIF funds to go towards the purchase of the land, is there's no prevailing wages on a land purchase, which is also the number one thing through the state MCA that TIF funds can pay for.
So they're getting, do I understand this correctly? They're getting around the TIF requirements by by purchasing land, which typically, that's my personal opinion. I don't like the land idea, but that's how they're getting around is paying prevailing wages.
Yep, because with any of these projects, the second the TIF funds touch something that is not that land, you're on prevailing wages, and that eats into that $1.5 million award would be gone almost instantly on a project this size. So that is why it's specifically applied for the land.
And did the TIF board understand that they were not paying prevailing wages?
100%,
and they were just for the
yes.
land, and they all
Yes.
agreed to that.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Now, Mr. Kennedy has a question.
This sheds a different light on the whole thing. Tax increment financing districts should be paying the prevailing wages. And Councilman Aspenlander had talked about that you're only doing 45% of local workers. I would expect to see 55% from the subcontractors working on this. But I have a real tough time and real heartburn after working with so many contractors and so many folks here in town, especially with tax increment financing dollars. I do not think you can get away with not paying the prevailing wages. So if it's not paying the prevailing wages, I'm a no. Thank you.
Any other questions? Anything, Mr. Iflin?
Mayor and council, so Mr. Friday was just looking at that, and then we would have to follow up on some questions about whether prevailing wages do need to be paid on that project through the development agreement.
Mr. Aspenlander?
So I think I've made it very clear. I'm not even anywhere close to a yes on this one, but just let's say we do pass it tonight. Are you saying the prevailing wage question will get itself worked out on the development agreement that will come back on our consent agenda? Is that, I presume, is that how that would go?
I'll have Mr. Friday kind of answer that in more detail potentially.
Councilmember Aspenlander, Mayor and Council, your approval of the project tonight would include then execution of the development agreement. So we don't bring those back for approval. They get approved going forward.
So follow up, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
So how do we know what the answer gets to be with the prevailing wage question then?
Councilmember Aspenlander, Mayor and Council, we will have to double check. I was reading the development agreement language and it appears that it would be required, but I would have to defer, have legal verify that that's in fact the case. So I can't say absolutely, but that's the way the development agreements are drafted.
So maybe this is a question for Mr. Friday, either you or City Administrator Iflin. If we condition the development agreement to what was noted earlier, stretching that payment out from 4 years to 5 years, so it's $300,000 a year, putting a requirement in that, over 50% of the labor and subcontracting base has to come from the city of Billings, not from Montana. I don't care about the other cities in the state as it relates to something like this. And that prevailing wages paid, I mean, would the development agreement be conditioned on those three things if a motion existed? Was that how you would see that happen then? To just take the ambiguity out of it?
Councilmember Aspenlander, Mayor and Council, yeah, I think that would be the way to do that. I would just say I'd be concerned about the requirement about the workforce and all, only because that is not something that we have consistently or required on any project. So that would just be brand new and be on a one-off. So
yeah, no, I understand. And admittedly, as I say that, that's a hard thing for us to track because it'd be a hard thing for us to even know what to look for. I hope the developer can understand the frustration in the way that he's approached this, using an out-of-town architect and taking the contracting force out of town and using a minority of local labor. That's when you're asking the city to give you $1.5 million in tax, and then you're not going to use our own people. That's a frustrating position to put me in. With this, I was a hell of a lot closer to maybe feeling like I could get convinced to support it if those things were in place, but that's not the case tonight. So, yeah, is what it is at this point.
Anything else for our presenters, Mr. Boyette?
So I guess I would go to our legal and say those three recommendations, would that be appropriate for a motion?
Yes, Councilmember Wyatt, the council can condition the approval if it wishes.
So Ms. Shaw wants to offer the motion.
Yeah,
Go ahead and offer your motion.
Yes,
as you
but
see
now
fit.
I have a
If we
question
need to
first.
amend it,
Yeah.
or if you got it the way we like it, we can go with it. So go
Okay.
ahead, Ms. Shaw.
My question first is for Mr. Huber, which is if we do condition it on prevailing wages, do you want us to approve this? Can you still make this pencil out?
We have not bid it out that way, so we would have to go back to the drawing board and see. We could. I don't know if we can avoid prevailing wage. I think our attempt is to try, if we can, to avoid it. It adds substantial cost to a project that's already cost constrained. We are happy to use more local subcontractors if that is a condition. We can certainly commit to doing that. Prevailing wages, if we can avoid them, it would be very helpful for the project for us not to pay prevailing wage. But if all three are conditioned, we will look and see if we can make it work. But likely it'll pose more challenges for the project than it's really able to bear.
Okay, I think I'm prepared to make a motion. I move to conditionally approve tax increment financing assistance from eBird to DRG North Park Apartments LLC up to $1.5 million as recommended by the eBird TIF Review Committee with a couple of conditions. One is that the project adheres to our TIF policy, which includes prevailing wages. Two, that the development agreement is written so there's flexibility on if the eBird needs to pay it out over 4 or 5 years, if no projects come in and we don't have anything major and it makes sense to pay it out in 4 years, great. If something comes in, I think it would be good to have that flexibility. And I think that was it. Wait. Oh, and the subcontractors. Yeah, let's throw that one in there too. 50%. We would like to see more local labor, and I would like to see them paid appropriately. Those two things are really important.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second? Ms. Aguirre? Would you like to speak a little to your motion?
I mean, I think this is a great project. But it definitely sent up flares for me hearing about the prevailing wage pushback. I understand from the financial perspective where you're coming from. As a council member, though, we worked hard to get that into the TIF policy. I can't go back on that personally, but I do want to see the housing. So I'm very hopeful you're able to make this work. But that for me is definitely an important requirement.
Dr. Nicholson, then Mr. Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm very pleased that this is a housing project that we desperately need. The Billings Chamber of Commerce has identified housing as one of their top priorities. The Northern Plains and Yellowstone Valley Citizens Council has found that among the people of Billings, housing's one of the top priorities. I like that this is workforce housing that might help people who earn a paycheck keep some of their last paycheck before they have to cash their next paycheck. And I like that this housing is within walking distance of downtown and the hospital corridor, which is a major location for jobs. And we need to recognize that healthcare accounts for about 18% of the jobs in Billings. I like it eliminates blight. I like that it remediates brownfields to good use. I like the idea that TIF financing puts it over the top. And of course, the big benefit is public housing. I understand that it's a nonprofit and it doesn't increase the tax increment. I'd like to point out, however, that Yellowstone County has given huge tax abatements to large profitable businesses. If the planned data center goes in, it will enjoy a 50% tax abatement for its first year. I can't imagine how much money that would be. This is infill development. Doesn't require extension of water or sewer lines. It doesn't require extension or widening of streets. Lack of affordable housing is the fundamental reason we have such a homelessness problem in this town. And this would not cure that, but it would be 152 steps towards that. I took care of a lot of individuals who had chronic, relapsing, remitting, disabling diseases and rendered them unable to compete in the workforce. And this would be housing for them. Put this into perspective. The people of Yellowstone County are asked to fund a jail at a tune of $195 million for additional 332 beds. We're talking about $1.5 million for 152 households. Those beds, those jail beds, increased jail beds are going to cost over $587,000 a copy. And this $1.5 million is less than $1,000 per household. I think we need to look at that perspective. It breaks my heart that this was not planned on prevailing wage, because prevailing wage is extremely important in my reckoning. So I like the conditions, but I think we need to put this project in perspective. And I think that this, if we pull it off, would be a very good thing for Billings.
Mr. Kennedy, then Ms. Aguirre.
Just a point of clarification, Councilwoman Shaw. The 300,000 per year for 5 years. Are you okay with going 5 years? I really don't want to go to 4. I would rather make sure we have enough money in the eBird. Are you okay to do it at 5?
I'm fine with it. I think my point was to make it so that they have the flexibility. If there's not any projects that come in and they can pay it off in 4 years, great. If a project comes in, they have the option to push it to 5.
The only problem is that I see, and by being in government a long time, they'll end up paying it out, and then she's going to have someone come in at the last minute. So if you're amendable, I would like to see it at 300 for 5 years. And then I will, with the prevailing wage and the 50% plus sub, I will vote for this.
Heather, does that give you any pause? 5 years, just making that a condition?
For me, no, but I'm not our developer.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's like full transparency is we would prefer not to be asking for TIF funds at all for this project, right? So that's really if that works for DevCo.
I think
for us,
I think Mr.
yes.
Huber said that he could live with the 5 years.
He's nodding his head. That's fine with me.
That's correct, if that's a condition.
That's
So,
fine with me.
Mr. Kennedy, would you like to amend the motion to just 300,000 a year for 5 years? Want to do a friendly amendment? You
Apparently
okay?
that doesn't exist, a friendly amendment, but let me do this. Can I just withdraw the motion and I'll make it again? Yes, a motion for approval blah, 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 with those 3 conditions attached to it. So number 1, I'm not going to read the whole thing. The prevailing wage. Number 2, payout over the 5 years. And number 3, the subcontractors at 50%.
All
or
right, Ms.
more.
Geary, you seconded it. Are you okay with that?
I'm okay with that.
Okay, I know that Mr. Roberts is probably not very happy right now, but I think we're good. All right, Mr. Kennedy, anything else? Good. Ms. Geary?
Yes, I just wanted to comment to say that excellent work on this presentation, Heather. Thank you for being so full of information. If I had any questions, they would have been answered. But I don't have any questions because I got to visit the site with you and I got to visualize families living in that space, and it just really warmed my heart to think of the possibilities. To the extent of not giving money to an entity because they're nonprofit, I think if that's the only thing that is a hang up, I think that's really short-sighted because again, 152 families will finally have somewhere they can call home. And if we're looking at the bigger vision of Billings, developing in this area is a gem. It'll, in my mind and prayer, be a stepping stone to more and more development for families. So I will 100% support this motion.
Great. Anything else? Anyone else? Mr. Neese? You're welcome.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome.
Okay. So I came into this as a hard no. Talking and hearing the conversation, I pulled out my map. Downtown's just a mile away. You get to Albertsons, it's less than a mile. Or not Albertsons. Yeah, Albertsons less than a mile. You go over to Applebee's, less than a mile. You go up to Target, just over a mile. So this is actually kind of in the center. The Northern Hotel is a little over a mile, so no, that's too far. For me, walkable, we talked about walkable years ago, and it's like anything within a mile is considered walkable. And so this is pretty walkable. I really don't like the nonprofit. There's other ways they could have done this. They could have, as Councilmember Raspallaner said, they could have done something, but it's going to affect their bottom line and the affordability of the units. Once I heard, I don't typically ask this, but I got to thinking about the Carpenters Union calls us once in a while, and I remember it. I'm going to ask this just to make sure. And it really bothers me. I mean, it really bothers me that not only did they say no, they try to avoid it. That means they not just do it here, they're doing it. That's their business model. And I guess it bothers me even more that that wasn't disclosed by eBird and the presentation indicating that that's what they were doing. And so I'm really concerned that this project is been tainted and the developer is not someone that I would want to do business with. And I think it for me, I was a yes on this. I had turned to a yes because it's right on off of Fifth Avenue, which it's a project I support for being a walkable area being developed once that railroad gets pulled out of there. It is walkable, but I have a difficult time working with someone who's trying to avoid our policies, blatantly trying to avoid them. And so I am very, very concerned about this. I'm sure there's going to be enough votes to pass this, but I hope that eBird is a little bit more open to all the information to us so we can make decisions. And we all know about this and kind of try to address them before they come to council instead of having to try to make amendments to make it fit and hope that they carry this out. But thank you very much.
Can I respond to that real quick? That was an absolute oversight on my part, Mayor and Council. So I'm very sorry about that. That was in my haste to have all of the studies and everything else prepared. I just simply, it didn't even cross my mind to put in there that that's why they were asking for the land purchase. So that I believe Chase was very forthcoming with that. That was definitely, I would say, more on me than on our developer in this case.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? All right, so we have a motion with 3 conditions. We're going to vote now. All those in favor of approving the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, please say no.
No.
I guess I heard three voices. Councilman O'Donnell, Councilman Aspenleiter, Councilman Neese. All right, the motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
That moves us on now to public comment on non-agenda items, things we haven't spoken about tonight. Speaker sign is required. If there's anyone that has any public comment tonight regarding a non-agenda item, please come forward. All right, seeing none, I will close that part and move to council initiatives. Do we have any council initiatives tonight? Councilman O'Donnell? Nothing? Okay. Anything else that we're missing? Well, if there's no objection, I will adjourn. And we are adjourned. Thank you.
No.
7.
Well. That's your real.